Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Some Stops Along the Way, your podcast that highlights some of the most interesting countries in the world through the lens of my work there and my experience, as well as the context of their history, culture, and geopolitics. I hope you're having a great final week of 2025. I know it's been a difficult year for many, but it's also been a great chance to learn and grow and transform. As we get ready to step into 2026, I wish you and your family nothing but the best, career wise and personally as well. So, from my family to yours, best wishes for 2026. As we get ready to enter 2026, we will also be entering season two of Some Stops Along the Way. Season one will have 35 episodes. This is the 35th one. And this one is going to be a little bit of a different episode as the one last week was because it's not going to focus on a country. It's going to focus on a different topic that I'll talk about here in just a moment. But I want to tell you what the format is going to be for season two of Some Stops Along the Way. I'm going to have some great guests in season two, people that have really made a difference in my life. Some of the people that I've talked about during season one of the podcast, but it's going to be a really memorable group of guests that I have in 2026. Um, we're going to start off the year with a great friend of mine who used to be mission director in the country of Georgia, USAID mission director there, who is an expert in hybrid warfare. Uh, we're going to have a great friend of mine who's the mayor of a city in Ukraine who's going to give you an update on what things are really like there. I'm going to ask my friend Gershon Baskin to join us on an episode to talk about the potential for peace in Israel and Palestine. I'm going to have a European princess on my show next year. Um, I won't say her name right now, but she's been invited and I believe she will accept. So we're looking forward to that. And there'll just be a number of others guests that I think that you will really enjoy as we move into 2026. And I'll still be doing some narrative formats on countries as well. So that's not going to stop, but at least twice a month, we are going to try to have a guest join us, and so that you can get someone's perspective besides mine on how things are really going in many of these countries around the world. So tune in for 2026. If you haven't subscribed to Some Stops Along the Way podcast yet on Spotify or YouTube, please do so. We're going to try to expand to a couple of other formats or platforms rather next year as well. So I'll give you more information on that as it occurs. But really appreciate those that are faithful listeners, and we're looking forward to a great new year. It's never been about numbers to me. I would rather have 10 or 15 people who really get value out of the podcast and listen to it on an ongoing basis than hundreds who really aren't interested, but for some reason they decide to follow because they like me or they want to listen to 5 or 10 minutes just to get snippets of information. This isn't about income to me. It's about information. It's about creating understanding. And so thank you to the loyal listeners and hope we have a lot more of them in 2026. All right, let's jump into the topic that I want to cover on this last week of 2025. I've been asked, Debbie and I have both been asked many times over the years, what are some of the favorite things that you've seen around the world? So this podcast is going to be devoted to some of my favorite places, and I've grouped them by continent. Now, this doesn't mean that they are the only places you should see, or this doesn't prioritize one place over another. I know there are varying opinions on what is worth seeing and what's not worth seeing. This is strictly based on places that I've visited that I feel are some of the most outstanding. And I could literally do an entire hour to 2 hour podcast on on places in each one of these on each one of these continents that I feel like are worth seeing. But for purposes of this podcast, and not to take a lot of your time on this busy holiday week, I have chosen 10 on selected continents that I want to discuss today. If you want to put them on your bucket list to see, I would encourage you to do that. But even if you never go there, I would encourage you to learn about these places, check out some of the photos, and really explore the greatness of the attractions and culture on these particular continents. I'm going to start with Asia. And the first one will be a little pedantic, but so be it. And that's the Great Wall of China. And Debbie and Daniel and I visited the Great Wall of China as a family. I visited it as an individual while I was working there. Um, it's every bit as spectacular as it's advertised. Because of its remote location, because of the architecture, because of just the wonderment, if you will, of how it was built and the kind of effort it took to build that kind of structure that's lasted the test of time. If you go, make sure the weather's good. You don't want to be up there in bad weather, either snow or rain. Take very comfortable shoes and be ready to have a tiring day because you're going to be going uphill and downhill and uphill and downhill. But there are amazing viewpoints all along the way, and I would encourage everyone to visit the Great Wall of China at least one time. The second one is a little more obscure, but nonetheless spectacular, and that's Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. It's a couple of hours probably outside of the capital of Vietnam, Hanoi, and it is really, really a special place. Ha Long means descending dragon, by the way, and so this is a a very large bay. It's about 600 square miles. It has more than 1,900 islets of limestone, floating cities, sampans floating by your boat with Vietnamese selling their wares. It is truly a majestic place, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Um, it can be fairly crowded during the high season months, but especially if you go on the off season. When I was there was almost nobody else there. It was like being in the middle of floating through the middle of a postcard. It was truly, truly a special place. And I had a great guide there, as I talked about on the Vietnam episode, who made that really something special to see. A third place that I would recommend is Corregidor Island in the Philippines. If you're a World War II historian or even have any interest in World War II, this is a place that is spectacular to visit just because of the history surrounding it. Uh, it fell to the Japanese in 1942. The one of the only times the United States has surrendered and was retaken by the Americans or the Allied forces, if you will, in 1944. Corregidor Island is amazing for a lot of reasons, but one thing that makes it amazing is the Malinta Tunnel, where both the Americans in 1942 and Japanese later in the war, as the Americans assaulted Corregidor to retake it, um, took refuge in this tunnel. It's an architectural wonder, and it's very easy to take the Star Ferry from Manila to go out to Corregidor. Um, you can go out for a day tour, or you can go out for an evening tour. There is one small hotel there. You can stay at the hotel overnight, take a night tour of Malinta Tunnel, which is totally cool, and come back the next day. But it's and the trip out there is outstanding as well on the ferry. So it's a really interesting place to go, and I would encourage you to do that. The Philippines is actually was actually challenging for me to pick one place in the Philippines because there's so many interesting places to go in the Philippines. It's true with all of these countries, but when you look at the sheer size of the Philippines and the remote islands and all of the interesting things that there are to see there, it's really hard to pick just one. But I think Corregidor is something that's pretty fantastic. The fourth place that I've selected in Asia is Angkor Wat, the jungle temple in Cambodia. Wow, what a fantastic place Angkor Wat is. I went there by boat and then took a short land trip over to the temple. Um, it was a little bit uh, rainy and foggy that morning, and the fog uh, obscuring Angkor Wat in the jungle. And as it was burning off, just seeing that temple emerge out of the jungle, this is something that is surreal. You really can't explain it. Hearing the monkeys screaming in the trees and running through the temple, and just the ancient feel that you get when you're there, surrounded by jungle with this amazing temple in front of you. It's really indescribable. It's not that difficult to get to. If you can get to Phnom Penh, you can get to Siem Reap, which is near the temple, by either boat if you have some time or by a very short airplane ride. Um, but it's something that is fantastic. The fifth, again, is a little pedantic. Everybody talks about it, but the Taj Mahal in India is really something to see. I have a funny story about it. The first time I saw the Taj, I was doing some projects in India, and I was in Delhi, and on a very early on a Saturday morning, I hired a driver to take me to the Taj, which is in Agra, a few hours away from New Delhi. And so we left at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'll be honest, I was exhausted from a hard week of work and jet lag. And I fell asleep and woke up just as we were arriving in Agra and saw the Taj Mahal. Unbelievable. You can't even fathom how beautiful the place is. And then, of course, right across the river is the Red Fort, and you can actually get great pictures. If you go over to the Red Fort, you can actually get better pictures of the Taj from across the river. But it was just a fantastic experience. A few years later, I went back with Debbie, and we were going to make the same trip. And she asked, "Is there anything interesting between New Delhi and Agra to see?" And I said, "No, not really. It's not that interesting to drive, but you'll love the Taj when we get there." And this time I stayed awake, and I had to laugh because the drive from New Delhi to Agra was actually so interesting. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that Debbie saw on the road uh, going from Delhi to Agra was a man who was stark naked bathing on the roof of his house. And once we got to Agra, she said, "Look, the Taj Mahal is kind of secondary now because that was the most interesting trip that I've been on overseas. And what is wrong with you saying there's nothing to see between Delhi and Agra? It's cultural uh, a cultural collection that you can never see anywhere else." So, point taken there. If you do this, if you see the Taj and you're in Delhi, don't fall asleep between on the road trip between New Delhi and Agra because there's a lot of interesting stuff to see. But once you get there, the Taj Mahal is fantastic. I would encourage you to go early in the morning before the huge crowds arrive, and go at a season when it's not too hot, because it can get very very steamy there. Um, Number six is the Floating Palace in Jaipur, India. Wow, what an interesting place this is. I don't usually pick two per country, but in India's case, it's such a large country, I felt like that it warranted two. Um, Again, I took a car trip from New Delhi to Jaipur specifically to see the Floating Palace. And it is a palace that's in the middle of a lake. It looks like it's literally floating on top of the lake. It is very, very amazing um, place to go, and one that is in a country that has unique ancient attractions. I think the Floating Palace is one that I felt like was one of the most unique. Number seven, Lahore Fort in Pakistan. I was just there this last June, and wow, um, amazing, amazing place. This ancient fort that was built by the Mughals, occupied by the British, hundreds of years old, uh, still very much intact. That's connected to a very beautiful mosque that is still in use to this day. Lahore itself is an ancient, interesting city, but Lahore Fort is something special, and I would recommend it very very highly. The eighth place that I really love is one that maybe many of you will never visit in your life, but if you do, you're going to be impressed. It's Bandamir National Park in Afghanistan. It has this beautiful lake with aqua water surrounded by mountains that desert mountains, a remote location, gorgeous location, nestled in the mountains of one of the safest regions of Afghanistan. Um, it is really a phenomenal place to see. You're just driving out in the middle of the desert and through the mountains, and all of a sudden here is this really crystal blue lake down below you that is indicative of the hidden beauty of that very misunderstood country. The ninth recommendation I have in Asia, or the ninth place that I really love, is not a location; it's a country. It's the country of Bhutan. I did a couple sessions on the podcast this year on Bhutan, so I won't go into detail. But what a fantastic place with jungle in the south, the Himalaya mountains in the north, uh, beautiful zongs or temples throughout. the country, some of the most amazing people in the world. Um, English is spoken widely. It is a country that takes environmental stewardship very seriously. It's not an inexpensive place to go, and it's not an easy place to get to. But if you've got the time and the resources, uh, I would definitely make the trip to Bhutan. And once you get there, you're taken care of. They're going to take care of you the entire time. You'll have nothing to worry about at all from the time you arrive till the time you leave. You'll have nothing to worry about. An amazing place. I would recommend it. The final place that I would recommend in Asia is a visit to base camp of Mount Everest in Nepal. I mean, there are fantastic places in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Um, I'm going to have some. I'm going to throw in a couple of honorable mentions here in just a moment. But base camp, I went to base camp by helicopter because I was too much of a wimp to hike there. I actually started the hike there with some friends. Got as far as Lukla. Got very altitude sick in Lukla. Spent 3 days there. Holed up in a guest house of a lady and her family that took care of me. Had no idea who they were, but they took good care of me. Got care of me. I got back to Kathmandu, and a few weeks later was able to make the trip to base camp of Mount Everest in a helicopter. So I readily admit that I cheated. So all of you who have done the hike and made it there can mock me as much as you want to. But uh, fantastic views, and if you get a clear day, I didn't have much of a clear day when I was there, but if you have a clear day and can see the summit of Mount Everest and just think about the fact that you are near the top of the world, it's really an amazing sight to see. All right, a couple of honorable mentions um, in Asia. I think one of the honorable mentions that I would throw out in Asia is the beautiful Red Fort in New Delhi. It is fantastic if you can handle New Delhi. Okay, New Delhi is New Delhi. Okay, it's big. It's not very clean. It's chaotic. Traffic is horrendous, but it has some sites that are really worth seeing, and the Red Fort is certainly one of them. I think also that everyone at some point in their life should experience Dhaka, Bangladesh, just to experience what it's like to be in 24/7 chaos, surrounded by people, but still seeing things that are literally amazing sights, like the Pink Palace uh, and the waterfront. And if you get the chance to take one of the ferries down to Chittagong, uh, just an amazing place. So those are a couple of honorable mentions in Asia that I would throw out. I won't have honorable mentions for every continent, but for Asia, I wanted to throw in those two. Let's jump over to Europe. Oh, I spent so much time in Europe, and this was really hard to come up with 10. Some of these are well known, some of them aren't, but I'm going to throw them out for what it's worth. And again, these are places that, based on my travels and experience that I love, you could probably add a lot more, but hopefully you will you will be interested in these as well. The first on my list, and these are not in ranked order, but the first on my list is Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, Austria. Um, Vienna is a special city to Debbie and me. Uh, we joke a lot that if we disappear from our home here in Tennessee and nobody can find us, before you call the police, at least check Vienna to make sure we're not there. And if we're not in Vienna, check Nairobi. And if we're not there, then you can call the police. But Vienna is an amazing place. It's a fantastic city, and Schönbrunn Palace is a real hallmark that of the period of time that made Vienna what it is during the Habsburg dynasty. The gardens there are fantastic. I would recommend that you go early. Hopefully, go in the off season rather than in the summer, because in the summer it's really crowded. But in the spring or fall, it's fantastic, especially in the fall when the leaves are changing. Amazing. These gardens are free of charge. There is a charge to go inside the palace. I would recommend that you pay it because the interior of the palace is absolutely astounding. But the gardens are free of charge. You can go and walk there and go early in the morning, take some comfortable shoes, and just enjoy the beauty of the royal period of Austria. The second one, people could argue with this, but it's a special place to me, so I put it on the list, and that's the Charles Bridge in Prague, Czech Republic. The Charles Bridge spans the Vltava River. It's an ancient bridge. Is lined by iconic statues. I think it's a special place to me because early in my career, I stood on that bridge as snow was falling. It was like shaking a snow globe, and looking out over that river and up on the hillside to Saint Vitus Cathedral and Prague Castle. The Charles Bridge is a special place, and it's a romantic place. It's a place that in the springtime, especially, is very crowded. The spring and summer. Um, I was there in different seasons. My favorite, quite frankly, was the winter. It's cold. Believe me, it's cold, but there are fewer people, and the ethos that you get during that period of time is amazing. And speaking of winter, the third thing on my list in Europe is not one location; it's a collection, and that's the Christmas markets. We Debbie and I had the great privilege of going with our friends to some of the Christmas markets in Europe. The market in Vienna, especially the large market in front of Vienna City Hall, is fantastic. You may be capturing a theme here of Vienna. We love it. So that's a great Christmas market. The Christmas market in Salzburg, Austria, home of the Sound of Music, a UNESCO World Heritage Site city. Fantastic. Budapest, fantastic. Nuremberg, Germany is actually the largest Christmas market in Europe. Um, they're worth they're worth seeing. You get that total European vibe, and it really puts you into Christmas spirit just to walk through these Christmas markets that have literally everything to eat and drink that you would want, and you can come home with a souvenir mug to prove that you were there. Um, Really fantastic. And all of these cities have more than one market. Virtually every neighborhood has their own smaller Christmas market, and then you get to the larger ones in the main squares of the city. So fantastic Christmas markets. I would encourage you to consider putting them on your list for the future. The fourth place in Europe, attraction, if you will, or site that is really special to me was Auschwitz, which is near Krakow, Poland. I'm a World War II historian, so it was meaningful in that regard. But I would recommend that anybody go to Auschwitz at least once to remind yourself what evil can really do. Auschwitz has your heart will literally feel dark when you're walking through it. Um, there's still an evil about it to this day, especially when you walk down into that gas chamber where so many people, for no reason other than racism and evil, lost their lives. And then you take the short trip over to Auschwitz II Birkenau, where people were gassed indiscriminately. Unbelievable place. And I'll share a couple of memories, if you will, of Auschwitz for you. When I was walking through Auschwitz, there was a young lady in our group. It was a relatively small group because it was in the wintertime. It was very cold. And toward the end of our tour through Auschwitz, we come to the site of the gas chamber. And after the guide talked a little bit about the notorious history of this site, we were allowed to walk down into the gas chamber. And this young lady walked ahead of me, and I was second, lagging a little bit behind. And as I walk in, she is taking a selfie in the gas chamber. And I was so shocked, I just stood there with my mouth open. I couldn't even understand what kind of mentality it would take to do a selfie in the gas chamber at Auschwitz. And before I could say anything, a lady behind me, a Polish lady, just went off on this young lady. And I felt sorry for the young lady in the end because I truly think that she didn't understand. I'm going to give her credit for not understanding the significance of what was going on, although she'd taken the same tour, so she had heard all the atrocities up until then, but for some reason it didn't register in her mind, and it was obvious that she felt very badly about it. She deleted the photograph, but it was unbelievable. And then a few hours later, I was on site at the notorious Auschwitz Birkenau, a camp that was built nearby the original Auschwitz because the original Auschwitz was too small to execute the number of people they needed to execute. So they built this huge Birkenau camp so that they could gas even more people. So as we arrived at Birkenau and we got off of our van, our guide, who was amazing, said, "Listen, we've joined another group. We've got too many people for one guide, so we've got two guides now, and we're going to split you up." And she said, "Everyone who's over 50, step over to your right. Everyone who is non-white, join them. Everyone who is having some type of physical infirmity, join them." And so she split everybody up, and then she looked at my group, which was on the right, and said, "Okay, this group on the left will go with this young lady. She'll give you a tour of the camp. This group on the right, follow me down this road to the gas chamber." What she was saying is that if this had been, instead of 2024, if this had been 1944, those of us who were older, had a physical infirmity, non-white, Jewish, Pole, Gypsy, we would have gone directly to the gas chamber when we got there. And that really made an impression on me. So, yes, Auschwitz will make you sad. It'll make you borderline sick. But I think everybody should visit at one time. It's very easy to get there. Krakow, Poland is a fantastic place on its own, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So see all that beautiful historic city of Krakow has to offer, and then take that tour just an hour or so away to Auschwitz, and it'll change your life. It'll change your perspective for sure. The fifth site that is really special to me in Europe are St. Michael's and St. Sophia's cathedrals in Kiev, Ukraine. I've spent a lot of time in Kiev. Spent a lot of time underground in Kiev in air raid shelters in 2023, 24, 25. Um, but I remember my first trip to Kiev during happier times in the late 1990s. Um, these these cathedrals with their golden domes and their bluish color and their extremely beautiful interiors are just something special. And Kiev as a city is something special. It really is. Um, and yes, there's a war going on now. Yes, it's hard to get to Kiev. You can't fly in there. You have to drive in there. Maybe you'll never go, or maybe you'll wait until after the war is over. But Kiev is an amazing place. And these two cathedrals, which sit in the center of Kiev, are really unbelievable places in their own right. The sixth um, location that really is meaningful to me in Europe is Pelish Palace in Sinaia, Romania. Former Palace of the Kings, nestled up in the mountains of Transylvania in Romania. Don't worry, there are no vampires there. You might take a clove of garlic with you just in case, but there are no vampires there. But there are beautiful mountains, great vistas, and this beautiful Palish Palace, and nearby the Pelishore Palace, the Little Palish Palace, which also belonged to the royal family, that are amazing. This tour of Palish Palace is a fantastic tour, and when you see the Italian-made glass chandeliers and how the royals lived during their rule of Romania, you'll have a great respect for and a better understanding of the monarchies throughout Europe and especially throughout that part of Eastern Europe. Again, it's an easy trip from Bucharest over um, to Palish to Sinaia. While you're there, go to the historic city of Brasov, go to the historic city of Sigishwara, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Transylvania is a special place. There are many places in Romania. I could spend the rest of this podcast talking about places in Romania that are interesting, but certainly Palish is meaningful to me. The seventh on the list is are the ancient towers in the country of Georgia's Svaneti region. Um, it's a long drive to get there. You can get a flight from the capital of Tbilisi, but they don't always go if the weather's bad. They can't fly. The drive up there is probably 6 to 7 hours if you don't fly. But wow, is it worth it when you get there and you see those ancient towers, these architectural marvels that sit in one of the most remote locations of the country. In fact, the Svaneti region was so remote that it developed its own language over time. Of course, Debbie and I had good friends up there, especially the mayor of the largest city in Svaneti region, Mestia, Capitan, who will be a friend forever of ours, and always welcomed us beautifully up there. But it is a really ancient and beautiful place. And then just down the road is Ushguli, which is even more remote with more of these ancient towers. If you like to ski, great place to ski as well. Um, so there's lots to do, and there's hiking, there is hang gliding, there's skiing, and there are these beautiful ancient towers that you will really, really love if you care about history at all. So the best time to go is in the fall or winter, um, and it can get quite steamy in the summer, but fall and winter and spring as well are very, very nice time to go to Georgia's Svaneti region. The eighth site in Europe is there are actually two in one city. Hagia Sophia and Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. Of course, I could talk about 3 dozen sites in Istanbul that are meaningful to me because Istanbul itself is a city that is extremely meaningful to me. Sitting there on the Bosporus, having a lunch or dinner like nothing else that you can imagine. But this edifice of the Hagia Sophia, which had formerly been a Christian church, it was turned into a mosque by the Ottomans, is an amazing place. Just it's very close to the famous Blue Mosque, uh, which is fantastic in its own right. And then everybody should go to the Grand Bazaar one time in their life. The Grand Bazaar is like nothing you've ever seen. A quick story: on one of my trips there, I ran into a couple from New Zealand. It was their first time in Istanbul, and they were lost. And they heard me speaking English, and the gentleman said, "Do you know how we can get to the Grand Bazaar?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I can walk you to it. It's just right down the street here." And as we were walking, he said, we've heard that we should see this. We're not interested in buying anything. We're just going to go in and walk around and see it." And I started laughing. I said, "No, you don't understand. The minute you walk in that bazaar, you are going to be surrounded by people trying to sell you things. Okay, this is going to be like sensory overload, and you are going to be inundated and overwhelmed immediately when you walk in." And he said, "Well, what do you recommend?" I said, "I recommend that you find something you like very quickly after you walk in, even if it's something really inexpensive, buy it, and then you can spend the rest of the time saying, 'Oh, you know what? I wish I'd gotten to your shop first, but look, I've already bought something.' That's your saving grace. Otherwise, you are like chum in the water for all the sharks that are going to be coming after you." And I caught up with them later in the day at a different location, and they had their little sack. They said, "Your advice worked. We bought something at the first shop we walked into, and then we toured the rest of the Grand Bazaar relatively unmolested because we told them we'd already bought something." So a little trick for you there. Istanbul is a fantastic place. Hope you have the chance to go sometime. But if you do, make sure, along with everything else, to see those two amazing locations, Hagia Sophia, Grand Bazaar, and throw in the Blue Mosque as well. The ninth location in Europe that I'd really recommend is also in Turkey, Cappadocia. Debbie and I went to this Cappadocia region on a trip. We did the hot air balloon over uh, the beautiful stone structures below. You talk about an ancient place. You can't, in a beautiful place, you can't really fathom it until you're in a hot air balloon floating through a valley with these what look like fairy houses below you with their limestone pinnacles, the caves, the ancient cities. Cappadocia is a special, special place. And the final one in Europe, which was very near where we lived in Cyprus, is Kyrenia Harbor in northern Cyprus. An ancient harbor, uh, most likely the harbor where the Apostle Paul arrived in Cyprus. It is in the north, so you have to you can fly to northern Cyprus from Turkey. Otherwise, you fly into the south in Larnaca, in the Republic of Cyprus, and go to the capital, and then you can easily make it across to the northern part of the island. Don't let anybody tell you it's hard or it's scary. It's not. It's crossing a simple checkpoint to the north, and then having a driver take you over to Kyrenia for lunch or dinner, especially for dinner. Amazing with that ancient harbor around you and sitting there having a nice seafood meal on the harbor. You'll love it. And Debbie and I certainly did all the times we were there. So I won't do any honorable mentions for Europe because there are just too many. So I'll shift now over to the Middle East and North Africa. The first I'll highlight, there a place is very special to us in the Middle East, North Africa, is Petra, Jordan. Uh, Petra is there's nothing like it in the world, really. Debbie and I have been there many times, and the minute you walk through that seek or that limestone uh, surrounded valley, um, that's the entrance to Petra, and they protected it for many years and made it such a remote location that it wasn't even discovered until uh, the uh, the late 19th century. You walk through there and wind your way around, and then you see this beautiful treasury building that's carved in the side of the mountain, and walk through the valley with all these ancient structures around you. You can't believe it, really. It's something extremely special. If you go to that area of the world, Petra is right at the top of the list of the things that you should see. The second on the list is the old city of Jerusalem. I spent a lot of time in that area of the world, especially in Jerusalem. I learned to navigate the old city so well that I could do it at night. And in fact, I loved going to the old city late in the day, and especially in the evening when it got dark, because the tourists were gone. That's the worst thing about the old city of Jerusalem is there are just too many tourists. But if you can go late in the day and stay in the evening when only the locals are there, you'll meet some fascinating people, and you will literally be following in the footsteps of Christ. A funny story about the old city of Jerusalem. My friend Ronit and I used to go there a lot on our days off and go to the Austrian hostel, which is a story on its own because there's no sign, you don't know it's there. You go up to a random building, which is right at the one of the intersections on the Via Dolorosa, and ring this bell, and they open the door, and you go up into a hostel that's owned by the Austrians or an Austrian company, and they have an amazing um, restaurant up there where you can get apple strudel and a cup of coffee, and then stand on the roof and look out over the whole old city. But um, the just walking through the old city itself is amazing. As I said, you meet a lot of people, but in the daytime you're going to meet a lot of tourists, especially if it's in the summer months or it's around Christmas or Easter. You're going to run into a lot of tourists. So Ronit had to. We had our coffee and apple Danish one morning at apple strudel at the Austrian hostel, and then Ronit had an event that day she had to peel off and go to. So I went ahead and walked down the Via Dolorosa, uh, all the way down. I made my way around to the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall, was walking back, and I decided to stop and have a bite of lunch. So I stepped into a place in the old city, sat down, and it wasn't busy. And a young couple came in after me and sat right at the next table. And I didn't intend to eavesdrop on their conversation, but I heard what they were saying, and it's obvious they'd never been there before. And so the young man says to the young woman, he said, "How many quarters are there in the old city?" And she looked perplexed and said, I don't know. We'll have to look at the map. I seem to recall that there are six. And I'm sitting there thinking, quarter means four. How can you say six? What is wrong? And I wanted to say something so badly because there are four quarters in the old city. There's the Armenian quarter, the Christian quarter, the Jewish quarter, and the Arab quarter. And they're called quarters because there are four. But this didn't quite take with this young couple, And I was just hoping they weren't American, and they weren't. They were Canadian, by the way. I'm sorry for my Canadian friends, but hopefully at some point in time during that trip, they found out that a quarter means four, and that there are four quarters, distinct quarters within the old city of Jerusalem. But fascinating place. You should go there. I will tell you that if you're expecting it to be like it was in the time of Christ, it won't be. It'll be filled with merchants trying to sell you something, filled with tourists. Churches have been built over the most iconic sites by the Crusaders. It's a very commercial place, but one I would still recommend to anyone. The fifth place I would recommend in Middle East North Africa is the desert oasis in Duz, Tunisia. This is down on the edge of the Sahara Desert in Tunisia, in the southern part of the country, and or as you're going into the south part of the country. And this oasis has millions of palm trees. You're literally in the middle of the desert, and then you come uh, nearby to Duz, and it has millions of date palms. One of the largest, if not the largest, oasis in the Sahara. An amazing place. Uh, Debbie and I really enjoyed it there. We went out into the Sahara on a camel trek, which was amazing, and then came back and stayed at probably one of the worst hotels we've ever stayed at anywhere in Duz. In fact, for a long time we joked with each other that if you Duz, you lose because of that hotel. But I can report now that there's another reason to go to Duz, and that is the Qataris built a beautiful resort there now, so you don't have to stay in a bad hotel if you go to Duz. You can enjoy your ride through the Sahara in either a jeep or on camels. You can enjoy that beautiful oasis and walk through these millions of date palms, and then you can have a great dinner and relax at a 5-star resort on the edge of the Sahara Desert. The sixth site in Middle East North Africa is the pyramids. Everybody talks about them. I know there are a lot of detractors. The Egyptians have done everything possible to try to ruin this site by overbuilding around it with just all the chaos and the merchants that are there. Wipe all of that away and just look at these structures and go inside of these structures. And it's really unbelievable. It truly is. And before you go, watch the movie Cairo Time with Patricia Clarkson, which I think is a beautifully shot movie. But the final scene is sunset at the pyramids. Sunrise and sunset there are fantastic. Uh, the Sphinx is there, so that's a bonus. But if you can just wipe away all the chaos around you and focus on the site itself, it's amazing. Of course, there are sites all over Egypt that you should see, everywhere from Aswan Dam to the Valley of the Kings, uh, Nile River cruise, you name it. But it all starts with the pyramids. And if you're in Egypt, don't forget honorable mention Alexandria in the north, which is more of a European city in Egypt. The famous Library of Alexandria burned down years ago, but it's still an amazing city to see. But it all starts with the pyramids. And go to Giza, Egypt, and you won't be disappointed. They'll try to take every dollar that you have, but uh, once you either overcome the chaos that's around you, or you decide to just give them all your money, you're going to have a great time. The seventh, or I think there's a seventh. I kind of lost track here, but the seventh location in Middle East North Africa, Burj Khalifa, United Arab Emirates, tallest building in the world. Uh, Flying into Dubai is kind of unbelievable anyway because you just see desert, 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 and then this amazing city below you. But the Burj Khalifa is so out of context of anything that that is below it that literally uh, you can't miss it. You look at it from the air and you think that this is somebody's built a toy town and stuck this huge tower in the middle of it. It's just unbelievable, and the views are fantastic. It is pricey. It's going to be crowded anytime that you go, but um, Burj Khalifa is worth seeing. Now, as far as Dubai goes, the United Arab Emirates, I'm not the biggest fan. I think it's pretty artificial. But if you want to go on a great shopping trip, uh, anyway, and spend some time in great restaurants and floating down the creek in Dubai, which is the artificial creek they built through the city, you might as well enjoy this amazing Burj Khalifa while you're there. And if you have some extra time, go to the Burj Al Arab, which is one of the is the only 7-star hotel in the world, and check it out as well. Although they will charge you even to tour the lobby there, by the way. So get ready for that. Take money if you go to UAE because there are lots of things to buy and none of them are inexpensive. The eighth place that is really interesting in the Middle East and North Africa to me is Al Masmak Palace in Riyadh. Pardon me, I just need to grab a Kleenex here. Al Masmak is in Riyadh, and it goes back. It dates back to the time of the kings. Riyadh itself is not as interesting a city, but Al Masmak is really worth seeing, and something that will really give you a perspective on the rich history of that area. And if you have some extra time, hire a driver to take you outside the city into the empty quarter to a place called the End of the World, which is huge cliffs overlooking this endless expanse of of desert. Uh, the ninth place I that's really special to me is Bethlehem in Palestine, birthplace of Jesus. Um, I I was talking in one of the podcasts about my experiences there. I spent a lot of time in Bethlehem. One of the funniest things about Bethlehem is that right across Manger Square from the Church of the Nativity, which is the traditional site of the manger, is a coffee shop, Starbucks. Literally the Starbucks logo, not Stars and Bucks like they have in Ramallah. There's a Stars and Bucks cafe in Ramallah and throughout Palestine that mimics Starbucks. But this is literally a Starbucks with the Starbucks logo and Starbucks cups, etc. Except it has no affiliation with Starbucks whatsoever. The guy did it on his own. And I asked him about it. He said, "What Starbucks going to do? Sue me? Palestine's not even acknowledged as a country around the world. So what's he going to do? File suit? What's he going to do? Or what are they going to do? I'm home free." So if you want to go to the fake Starbucks in Manger Square in Bethlehem, now you know where it is. It's just right across the large square from the Church of the Nativity. Um, Bethlehem is a troubled place. Um, I would suggest that you not that that if you go at Christmas time, you be prepared for the crowds. But otherwise, it's a place that's really interesting and unique, and you can come away with some beautiful olive carvings there. It's fantastic. But don't forget to go to the Church of the Nativity and go to the bottom of the church, which is a traditional site of the manger, and you may have to queue up to go down there because there are lots of people. But uh, don't don't hesitate to do that. And check out the tiny little door that you have to go through to go into the Church of the Nativity. Literally, I don't care how short you are, you're probably going to have to duck to go through that door. Really interesting place. And the final place that I would recommend in Middle East, North Africa is the old city of Damascus in Syria. I know Syria has been very troubled, civil war, lots of things going on. The tourism just about dried up for a while. But the old city of Damascus is fantastic, and its biblical origins and everything else about it is just amazing. Let's jump over to Africa now, and I'm going to move pretty quickly here. Number one on the list, as far as I'm concerned, is places I've been is Masai Mara National Park. Um, it is indescribable to see elephants and cheetah and leopards and kudus, uh, hyenas, rhino, all in the wild, living like they should be living, not in zoos, not in captivity, but out in the wild. You can visit some of the Maasai villages around Masai Mara. There's some amazing lodges there. If you go, I would suggest that you stay in the Mara Triangle, which is a a very well preserved part of the park and one with a lot of game. And it has the beautiful Serena Masai Mara Lodge there as well. Um, but Masai Mara, we went there many times when we were in Kenya. We went there just about every Easter that we were in Kenya and welcomed the sun on Easter Sunday morning uh, over Masai Mara, which would literally bring tears to your eyes. And the sunsets in Masai Mara are like nothing you've ever seen before. But warning right now, you go to Masai Mara, you see that sunrise, you see that sunset, I promise you, you're going to want to go back to Africa. Africa will be in your blood forever. So just get ready for it. Second place, Zanzibar. Wow. This island off the coast of Tanzania, this aqua water. You can take a ferry from Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania, over to Zanzibar. If you do, though, take your passport and take your yellow inoculation card because Zanzibar is an autonomous region and they do have immigration. So you have to have your passport, you have to have your yellow immigration card because they don't consider themselves part of Tanzania. So, uh, but once you do that, uh, you can walk through the ancient streets of Zanzibar, the Spice Island, stand in its ancient port, hear about its history, and also check out the birthplace of Queen frontman Eddie Mercury, who was born in Freddie Mercury. Eddie, what am I saying? Freddie Mercury, who was born in Zanzibar. The third place that I really was blown away by in Africa is the Congo River. The first time I stood on the banks of the Congo in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is not an easy place to get to, by the way. But the first time I stood there, I just remembered all the missionary stories that I'd heard of African missionaries in the Congo River. And the first time I actually got to float on the Congo River, uh, I was just blown away. This river separates two countries, actually, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the and Congo Brazzaville, which we call Congo B, which is right across a separate country, right across the Congo River. Amazing, amazing, amazing. As a matter of fact, the United States Embassy had its own ferry boat that went across the Congo from Congo B to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But Congo River is special. It is it's part of the it's a manifestation of the tragedy in that country because here's this amazing river. Pardon me, that it should be one of the most navigable rivers in the world, but you can't really use it that way now because the infrastructure is gone. The country's in so much disrepair. So you have this huge river, and that should be filled with barges, should be filled with passenger ships, but for the most part, is just a manifestation of everything that's gone wrong in that region of the world. The fourth place that I really love in Africa is Lake Victoria in Uganda. It's the headwaters of the Nile, so you can go literally to where the Nile begins. Debbie and I floated Lake Victoria. Beautiful, beautiful place, pristine. Um, if you go to the capital of Uganda, Kampala, fly into the famous Entebbe airport of Radon Entebbe fame, and navigate that very scary road into Kampala. You can take an equally scary road to Lake Victoria and see the headwaters of the Nile, see the beautiful bird uh, life around that iconic lake. Fifth, trekking mountain gorillas in Rwanda. Debbie and I did this, and there's nothing like it. It's expensive um, because not very many people get to do it. They charge when we went, it was $750 a person to photograph the gorillas for 1 hour if you can find them. They don't guarantee that you'll find them, but we trekked an hour and a half through the rainforest and found the gorillas, and we're literally surrounded by this family of gorillas that we were able to photograph for an hour. Best money we ever spent. Unbelievable, and it provides resources to the communities. In fact, the guys that carried our gear into the jungle, the porters, all used to be poachers, but now they make so much money as porters, and the government shares the money from the registration prices to see the gorillas with the communities to build schools and hospitals. There's no need for them to be poachers anymore. Now they're very willing to support the tourism trade. There are so few mountain gorillas left in the world that seeing them in the wild is an amazing thing. The next um, location that really is amazing in its own right is the Cape of Good Hope in Cape Town, South Africa. South Africa's got a lot of issues. In fact, I wouldn't recommend a lot of places in South Africa, especially Johannesburg. But Cape Town uh, is beautiful in its own right. But flying into Cape Town and swinging around and seeing the Cape of Good Hope, the tip of Africa, is something really special and something I will never forget. Um, the next location that I would highly recommend, the seventh location, I believe it is, Victoria Falls in Zambia. Uh, this the falls between Zambia and Zimbabwe is unbelievable. Just the amount of water that goes over that falls. I've seen a lot of waterfalls. I've been to. I have been to falls all over um, the world, including our iconic Niagara Falls in between the United States and Canada. And there's nothing like Victoria Falls. The trip there is a little bit arduous. You can fly into the capital of Zambia um, and make the trip down to the falls, or you can fly into Zimbabwe and do the same thing. But once you get there, totally worth it. Just amazing in its own right. And if you want to do some bungee jumping or balloon riding over the falls, you can do that as well. The eighth location that is very meaningful in to me is Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. It's connected to Masai Mara National Park. Haven't spent nearly as much time in Serengeti. In fact, as a matter of fact, I stepped over across the border from Masai Mara in Kenya to Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. But the fantastic thing about Serengeti and Masai Mara is the migration, which happens in the July-August timeframe, where literally millions of wildebeest make the migration across the rivers. And Debbie and I got to enjoy the migration in 2021 when Masai Mara and Serengeti were almost empty because it was just at the end of COVID. Tourists weren't there, and we got the experience of a lifetime in seeing this with virtually no tourists there, just surrounded by millions of wildebeest, seeing the the circle of life really unfold before us. But even when there are people there, even when there are a lot of tourists there, the place is so big that you'll still have an amazing experience. So Serengeti, Masai Mara, they're joined together, one in Tanzania, one in Kenya. You should definitely check it out. The ninth location that I would recommend is Lake Malawi. Um, I remember standing on that lake early in the morning, um, and it was actually still dark when I was standing there. And as sunrise happened and it got light, I looked over, and about 5 feet from me was a sign that says, "Beware of hippos at night." So I'd been standing out there in the dark, and the biggest killer in Africa was probably around me, and I didn't even know it. You might be surprised that hippopotamus is the biggest killer in Africa. They're responsible for more deaths than any other animal in the country. And there are lots of hippos at Lake Malawi, but it's a beautiful place that I value seeing. And the final one that I'll bring up here is Amboseli National Park in Kenya. Kenya is a pretty arid place. It's got a lot of desert and savanna habitat, but Amboseli is actually a very wet habitat. It's a marsh, and so you can see the marsh elephants there. They live in this green and beautiful place. You can see them out in the water in the marsh, especially the baby elephants. All you can see is their trunk sticking up and maybe the top of their head. But it is Amboseli is really an iconic national park in Kenya. So I'm going to finish off quickly with North America. 10 places. I'm going to move quickly. And I know everybody will argue with these because many of you have been to all of these places. There's so many more that you can add to the list, but I'm just going to hit 10 very quickly. Number one, Alaska. Go to Alaska. Did you hear me? I said go to Alaska. Whether it's summer, fall, winter, spring, go to Alaska. I would love to experience the winter in Alaska. I haven't done that. Experienced the late fall. Um, would love to go back and chomping at the bit to go back. So make the trip either by cruise ship or if you have some time, drive there through British Columbia, the Yukon, down the Alaskan highway to places like Skagway. Just go. That's all I can say. Monument Valley in Utah. Watch The Searchers first. John Wayne, The Searchers, the iconic John Ford movie, and then go to Monument Valley. Again, it's otherworldly, so just do it. Banff National Park in Canada, um, beautiful location. Again, overrun with tourists sometimes, so be careful when you go, but something special. Tulum in Mexico, the the ancient ruins that are often covered up with people, but Tulum is a site that you will not forget when you go into that jungle and you see these ancient temples. Not as impressive as Angkor Wat in Cambodia, but impressive in its own right. Uh, the fifth place that Debbie and I love a lot is Savannah, Georgia. Man, we love Savannah with its all of its squares and its historic homes and its great food uh, and the historic cemetery and all the stories um, surrounding the even going back to revolutionary times and the historic cemeteries, which I love. I love to walk through old cemeteries. They give you a real window of the history of the place. Definitely, Savannah is an amazing location. We were there at Christmas time, which makes it even more special. A place that you should consider visiting. St. Augustine, Florida, America's oldest city, uh, comes in here at number 7, I believe it is, uh, or at number 6 probably. But at any rate, whatever number it is, St. Augustine is a special place. Um, we loved walking through Flagler College. There, the great architecture, uh, going to the historic fort, uh, taking a dolphin tour riding the pirate ship, whatever it is you want to, having a great seafood dinner, whatever it is that you want to do, you can find it in St. Augustine, and it is as I said, the oldest city in the United States. So there's a lot of history there to be seen, and beautiful beaches nearby as well. I would also recommend next on the list Mexico City. Uh, Totally chaotic, totally wild and crazy. You'll pull your hair out, but you'll love it. You'll just love it. Um, lot of history, fantastic food, good people. Next on the list, Toronto, Ontario. Debbie doesn't like big cities, so she disagreed with me on this, but Toronto's a fantastic place. Uh, it's funky, it's interesting, it's got sports, it's got good food, it's got hippies, uh, it's got just about everything. It's got great entertainment. It's got about anything that you want. Around Christmas time, you can ice skate in the middle of the city. I like Toronto very much, and it's a great jumping off point for Niagara Falls as well. The last two in the United States, say what you want to about New York City and the direction it's going politically. Not interested in that. I love New York City, always have. Broadway, Central Park, Radio City Music Hall, Rockefeller Center, Statue of Liberty, 9/11 Memorial. Don't get me started on New York City because I have so many great memories there that it's a place that I can't help but go back to. I don't have to agree with their politics or the direction the city's taking, but I have to go back. And finally, Washington D.C., America's outdoor museum. Um, if you want to really get an idea of what it took to build this country, Washington D.C. is the place. Great museums. Uh, I loved early in the morning to stroll through Arlington National Cemetery and just the peacefulness of that and honoring the heroes that are buried there. Um, George Washington's home just down the river, just down the Potomac River, a few miles. Washington, D.C. is a special place. So I'm going to stop right there. I know it's been a little bit of a longer podcast. Hopefully, you've had the chance to absorb it. But in January, we're starting something new, season two, some stops along the way. You're going to like it. You're going to love some of the guests. You're going to love the learning about some new and different countries. We're going to pick up back in Asia in January on some stops along the way. Get ready for it, and we'll see you then. Until then, Happy New Year.